there because the cops are sitting anywhere in there. Well, they got him, flashed out his little face out here. And he didn't pay any attention.
Irish.
All right, folks, if we could, let's come back together for consideration of our next two docketed items. And as always, I'll call on Ms. Nunn here to read the next two dockets, please.
Okay, docket PZ-18-014, application has been filed by W&M Stone Enterprises, Inc. for the approval of a development plan and conditional use permit, indoor mini storage, with waiver of section 260-400, 3 minimum lot size on approximately 1.902 acres. The property is located at 6520 West Highway 146 in Crestwood. The zoning is C3 General Business District. Okay, we have docket PZ
Nope, just one.
Just
I'm
one?
sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Nope, that was my fault. Okay, Ms. Beeman?
Good morning, Brooke Beeman with Oldham County Planning and Development Services. You have two requests as part of this docket. One is a conditional use permit for indoor mini storage, and the second is a development plan with a minimum lot size waiver. This is located at 6520 West Highway 146 in Crestwood. The property is Zone C3 General Business District. The existing building is used for a laundromat, and the lot size is 1.9 acres.
Okay.
This is an aerial view of the site. You can see it's right in the middle of downtown Crestwood. The subject lot is circled in red. This is the current zoning of the area. As you can see, the lot is Zone C3. There's C3 to the north, R4 to the south, R2 to the east, and C3 to the west. The applicant is proposing an indoor self-storage facility which requires a conditional use permit in C3 General Business District. Section 26400 lists the conditional use standards for self-storage facilities. So far, the applicant meets all three of those except for the minimum lot size, which is 3 acres. The justification for the conditional use as listed in their application states that the applicant purchased the building in disrepair and reconditioned the structure. There's no increase or alteration of the building footprint. The renovations and use of the facility will not change the outward appearance of the existing building or character of the area, and it's a desirable use as only one other storage facility in the area offers climate-controlled storage. This is the proposed floor plan on the, this is the entire building. You can see on the left there's the existing laundromat, and that's occupies about 5,600 square feet of the 10,000 square foot building. I've highlighted in green the area that the proposed mini storage use will be located, and then out to the right is the drawn floor plan that the applicant is proposing. So that'll occupy approximately 4,400 square feet of the building and contain 42 units. The minimum parking for a laundromat is 1 space per 300 square feet of gross floor area, which would require 16 spaces based on the square footage of the building. And the minimum parking for self-storage is 1 space per 10 storage units plus 1 space per employee. So that would require approximately 5 spaces. The total parking required based on this application is 21 spaces, and the applicant meets that requirements with 45 spaces. This is the site plan that the applicant submitted, and they did measure. They used our measuring tool on GIS to measure the existing vehicular use area and the approximate number of parking spaces, which is 45. The applicant is requesting the following waiver from section 26400, conditional use standards for self-storage facilities. Because the site is 1.9 acres, that's under the 3 acre requirement, so they are asking for that waiver to allow the conditional use. The justification from the application states that there are 2 other storage businesses in Oldham County under 3 acres that they could find, and the purchase of more property to meet the 3-acre requirement would not be feasible because this is an infill site in downtown Crestwood. This is the existing building. The applicant purchased it and then repurposed it to make part of it a laundromat. So that is in operation currently. This is the north view in the parking lot. This is the adjoining property to the north. And you can see on the aerial map, the building circled in blue is the building that we're looking at in the photo. This is the south view in the parking lot, looking down Old Floydsburg Road. There's Old Floydsburg. And the you can't really see it very well, but this is the adjoining property to the south, the Maple Leaf Apartments. And that's circled in blue at the bottom of your aerial map. And just a zoomed in view. This is the west view, this is the bank. And the east view, which is the Oldham County Arts Center. I'm actually standing at the fence line where the existing apartments are. So I'm standing right in that grass strip looking back towards the building. So there's an existing fence line that separates the two properties with some brush and trees. And you can see the top of that building from the apartments. So in summary, the applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit for indoor mini storage and a development plan with a minimum lot size waiver of 3 acres. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Freeman. Is there any questions for staff? Or, excuse me, before I do that, I'll call on Derek for his comments. You need to sit closer so I don't keep missing you or whatever.
Okay. Good morning. My name's Derek Shade. I represent the engineering department for Oldham County. Just wanted to, one point of clarification that will probably be addressed. Based on the Planning Commission package and the presentation, the development of the property appears to be confined to the interior of the building since the parking already exists and the building footprint is not being enlarged. Just want clarification that there's no earthwork being done on the outside perimeters of the property. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, any questions for staff now? Any questions? Mr. King? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. King?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brooke, can you tell us, one of the adjoining properties was zoned R2. Which property is that?
It's the Oldham County Arts Center facility.
The
So
school
this view-
buildings then, so it's not a residential use, it's
Correct.
zoned residential. Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
All right. Mr. Finney? Ms. Smith?
I have a question on, brought up in a couple of these things, there's talking about there's already storage facilities that are under 3 acres in the county, and that now the ruling is 3 acres. Was this new ruling changed with the comprehensive plan? Or
I did a little research, and I'm not sure exactly at what year it was changed. There were a couple that were approved in 2000 and 2001 time span, and I looked through the minutes and the documentation that was provided, and there is no mention of lot size whatsoever. But then in 2008, when there was Storage Masters 2 on Concord Avenue was approved, there was the minimum lot size mentioned at that time. So I think there was a revision to the zoning ordinance in 2008, which would probably, based on what I've looked at, would probably be when the lot size requirement was added.
okay, so about somewhere around 2008, the change came about that it was now required that they would be a minimum of 3 acres.
Yes, that's
Okay. All right, thank
staff's
you.
opinion.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
Brooke, on the 3 acre,
Is your mic on?
I'm using that
Oh,
one.
okay. All right.
It said the 3 acres, and there are 3 properties, and they're not 3 acres. Are we using the 1.9? And I want to know on the other 2 properties that are under the 3 acres, what kind of variance was it? Were they as low as 1.9?
So I do want to first talk about the justification. The justification of there being other properties that are under the 3 acres comes from the applicant's justification statement. Staff is not using that justification as a reason to approve. That would be on the applicant to give you justification as why you should use that as a reason. I did go back and look at the development plans of the properties that they listed in their justification statement, and I can put that on here just for your information. So at the top, there's indoor storage facilities less than 3 acres. Those are the few that were listed in the applicant's justification statement. I didn't look at every storage facility in Oldham County, just at the ones that were listed, and those are all of the storage facilities that they've listed that are under 3 acres. So there's Red Dot off of 146, that's just over 2. Storage Masters off of Highway 22, which is 2.67, so close to 3. Papa's Properties in Pee Wee Valley is 1.29 acres. And then the American Mini Storage on 329 has 3 separate tracks, so I guess it was just never consolidated. So technically, they have 3 acres for the use. They're just separate
Okay,
tracks.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any additional questions for staff? Yes, sir. Mr. Douglas?
Amy, I'm not Amy, I mean Brooke, sorry. On the conditional use permit, it says conditional uses for conditional use standards for self-storage facilities. Whatever we recommend or whatever we approve or deny, should we state that this is only for indoor storage facility? Because if we say conditional use standards for self-storage facilities, there's plenty of
Sure.
areas in that fenced-in area they could use for vehicle storage.
You
or-
can make that as a
Binding it.
binding element that they have no outdoor storage,
Okay.
if you wish.
And also, the application is for only the indoor storage on this one. You're not even asked to consider outdoor.
But I'm just saying, if we don't say it, because basically what I'm looking at is it says in our thing, conditional use permit, section blah, 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 conditional use standards for self-storage facilities.
Yeah. Remember, we always say only the plan that was submitted today.
Right.
So the plan is not outdoor storage, but you can add it as a safety measure
Okay.
if you care to.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move into the presentation of the applicant or representatives and others in support of the application. Mr. Baxter, I assume that would be you again?
That's me again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Barry Baxter, 117 West Main Street here in LaGrange. I represent the applicant W&M Stone Enterprises on this particular docket. I know based upon what I'm about to talk to you about and what you get to hear about after me, that you all are going to be sort of sick of hearing about storage. So I'll try to breeze through this if I can. This particular piece of property, it was purchased by my clients last year from Rick Rash. The Crestwood Coin Laundry was traditionally located in Crestwood Station for a long period of time. And as many of you all may know, Southeast Christian Church has the Oldham County campus in that facility, and they actually own that side of the Crestwood Station. I don't know if they own the rest of it, but I know they own that side where the old Winn-Dixie was and all of that. They were my client's landlord, and they want to get out of the landlord business, so they gave him notice that he was going to need to relocate. So he began to look for a location, and he purchased the building that was the old, I call it the Minish and Potts building. I know it's been many things through the years. It was a grocery store at one time and many other things that was owned by Rick Rash and his ex-wife. That building, at the time that they bought it, and I'm going to show you all some pictures of it, was not in very good shape. My understanding is that there was plans to tear the building down because it was in such bad shape, but it cost too much money to tear the building down. So the owner at the time said, well, let's see if I can sell it. And they found W&M who was willing to buy it because they needed some place to put the coin laundry. As Brooke had described to you, this is the footprint of the property. That's 1.9 acres. This is the building itself. I suspect that that photo is probably one that was taken prior to my client beginning to renovate the property. But that is the building that we're going to talk about. We've got the surrounding uses, and interestingly, you do have that R2, but that is clearly not a residential use in it, that the Art Center is located there. If you all are familiar with this location, in that parking lot, there is what is now, I think, a National City Bank. It used to be Crestwood State Bank. There is also an auto repair facility that is located immediately adjacent to my property, my client's property. There is carpet dealer, I think Mohawk Carpets or something, that's also in there. And there's a large area of paved surface that is depicted here that I believe my client's intention, and he's in discussions to get all of this repaved with the neighbor that runs the auto repair facility in this location, and the parking lot at that point would be striped. So obviously that's something that you all could add as a condition of approval, that they stripe that parking lot after they get the paving done. They don't want to do that until they determine whether they can proceed, number one, and number two, there'll be some heavy trucks coming in and out if you all allow them to proceed, and which would obviously cause some damage to that parking lot that they'd prefer not to have happen. They'd rather pave it after the fact. This are just, I'm going to have a series of photos here. This is what the interior of the structure kind of looked like before. This is the exterior of the building prior to my client beginning any kind of refurbishing of the building. This is the rear of the building prior to anything taking place. And this is just a picture of the side, from the side, and this is the overhang that said Mission Bots on the front of it that is just falling off the building. While they were under construction, they had to tear out some of the floor to do some things on the interior. This would allow for some plumbing work to be done. This was them cleaning up, basically cleaning the back of the building and getting it ready to be painted. This was some refurbishing of the front of the building, and this is getting close to being completed at that point. And this is the finished product. So at this point, you've got the coin laundry operating in one half of the building already. This is the rear of the building after they've cleaned it up. They are very proud of the inside of the coin laundry. They invite you to come in if you've got something large to wash. They're more than happy to have you come in. I'm giving a little free advertising. This is a state-of-the-art facility, as my client describes it. And this is the other side. This is what would be finished out if you all approve this proposal to become the mini storage facility. So the good news is they've got the space ready to build in. And they haven't gone and taken any steps. We're not here begging for forgiveness because we already did it, and then you all are saying, well, why did you go ahead without our approval? They are ready to go just as soon as you tell them, if you tell them that it's okay for them to do. Just another picture of the interior. This is a drawing, and I stole this from Brooks' PowerPoint. I had turned this in. This just gives you an idea. This is the existing laundromat on this side, and this is what they are proposing to do if they're allowed to fill in the space that is located here, the size of the units and that type of thing. It would be 42 units total that would be on that side. So we sent the notices as required. We only got one response, and I'll show you that. That's from the adjoining landowner who has some unqualified support for our project, and to my knowledge, nobody has expressed any concerns about anything we're proposing to do. This is the email that was received from our neighbor, which runs the Crestwood Sunshine. I don't know why it's called that, but he runs the automobile place next door, and he fully supports this. And he is all for what my client is proposing to do with this property. What we are requesting, and it can be a condition of approval, we have no objection to that. This is for indoor storage only. So we have no objection to this being indoor storage. I realize my client has some other property, and that property is not going to be outdoor storage. We're not going to have anything on that part of the property, and we have no problem with that being a condition of the approval. So the last one, we were talking about what kind of security there is. There's going to be security cameras. This will be round-the-clock access, and as opposed to a keypad, which with a keypad, the issue is that you can give your code number to somebody else who can go in and out of the facility. This will actually require you to have a key fob. So when you rent the storage facility from my client, who will be next door at the coin laundry, he's going to give you a key fob. You put that on your keys, and when you want to access it, you go up and swipe that, and it allows you to access the building. The only way you can get in and out of that building is with that key fob. Further, the nice thing for him is if you don't pay your rent, he has the ability to deny you access to the building, so you got to come see him and talk to him about your rent. So that's a good feature for him as well. The building is going to be equipped with security cameras. I believe, and I'll come back to this, again, I realize it's hard to make these things sexy, but this is the information about the key fob system right here and how they manage the doors. It's going to have a single point of entry. Obviously, there'll be a safety door at the back, but there'll be a single point of entry at the front of the building. You'll have to use the fob to get in and out. There won't be any access from the back of the building, so there's not going to be people parking in the back and coming in. That door will be a fire door, so you can get out, but it'll be alarmed and that kind of thing. This is just a placement of where they're going to have motion sensors in the building. So the building will be dark if no one's in there. When you walk in, as you start walking through, lights will come on. It's kind of like being in the frozen food section at the Walmart, where the lights start to come on as you walk your way down. This will be the same kind of thing, so that that'll obviously conserve energy. And since it's going to be fully contained in this, it's not going to be any issue for the neighbors anyway. Going back to our justification, they bought this building, and as you saw, it was in a pretty bad state of disrepair. They've reconditioned the structure for one use, obviously the coin laundry, and they'd like to be able to have the other use. There's no increase or alteration in the building footprint. So basically, we had a structure, we've reconditioned the structure, we haven't made it any larger. We're not going to change the outward appearance from what you saw in the recondition. And so the building is improved to that point, and if you'll let us have this use, I mean, the outside's going to look exactly like it is, except for maybe signage, which obviously would comply with any sign ordinance that you have. And this is climate controlled. So when you start talking about storage, I know you all see them when you drive down the road. A lot of those are not climate controlled. The nice thing about this, and my client will be able to charge a little more for that, is this is going to be heated, air conditioned, so you can put your things in this. You don't have to worry about the elements. And based upon our research, there's really only one other climate controlled facility in the area. So this will be something that we believe there'll be a high demand for. And most importantly, and probably the most significant part, is this is infill. So you've got an existing piece of property with an existing structure that is being reused. And under your all's comprehensive plan, infill is one of the things that you all are asking people to try to do, so that we reuse property and we don't go out somewhere out in the county and pick a new piece of property and build on it. We're doing something here by reusing the property we have. We would ask you to approve this because it is infill. Because of the size and the shape of the property. It's a man-made condition. It's not something that was created by my client. It does not obviously meet the 3-acre requirement, but based upon what we're proposing to do and based upon the fact that we're not changing the footprint of that, we would ask for your all's approval. Further, we would ask you to approve. These are the standards, I think, as it relates to it. And there's not any significant impacts that we believe to the community based upon this. There's the support of the neighbor. There's no opposition that we are aware of, and that this is not going to impair the neighborhood in any way, the integrity or the character of the neighborhood. We've got the development plan, and those are a couple of objectives of the comprehensive plan that I looked at that seemed to be appropriate in this particular situation. We will follow, obviously, any of the recommendations or binding elements that you all choose to attach to this. I do have the builder here today. If you all have any kind of structural questions, I don't have an engineer for this, so, you know, in trying to do that, these are the guys that have done the heavy lifting and done the hard work. They're from, it's Mr. Builder, right? From Mr. Builder, they're present this morning, so if you all have questions for them, they're certainly glad to stand up. And then Mr. and Mrs. Stone, the owners of WN Enterprises, are likewise here, and they're glad to stand up and answer any questions you may have. Mr. Chairman, that does conclude our presentation, however.
Okay, thanks, sir. All right, with that, is there anyone here that would like to speak in support of this application? Anyone here to speak in support of? Okay. Is there anyone here that would have testimony or questions by those opposing the application? Is there anyone here that is opposed to this application? All right, seeing no one stand up, we'll now ask the commissioners if they have questions for the applicant. Any questions for the applicant? Ms. Crosby, make sure your mic's on.
I hope, yes, it is. I'm looking at the sizes. I hope this is what you're presented as the sizes of the units. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. Is it, are we talking,
Well, yes, this is, I think this is it.
yes, ma'am.
You didn't mention prices on any of these. Will there be varying prices of each of these? I'm looking at a 5x5. That won't put me in there, but anyway. What,
Well, first of all, Ms. Crosby, you can't live in it, so that's number one. That was one of the things.
I'm 5'8". I know I can't live in it.
So obviously, I don't know, I really don't know anything about the pricing. I just know, you know, a larger unit's gonna be more expensive than a smaller unit, and they will price it. I'm not sure you've even made that determination yet, have you? No. So they haven't made that determination at this point.
Ms. Crosby, I just remind you, that's probably not real relevant to the application being proposed today, so, but,
Still, I'd like to know.
okay. Anything else, Ms. Crosby?
No, that's it.
Okay.
That-
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Douglas.
Mine will be easy. Well, I guess this might be go for staff. Do we require anything like for fire code standards in indoor facilities like this?
I don't know that answer, but that's a good question. It does have, any use has to comply with the Kentucky Building Code. And so they would have to submit plans for a permit to our,
I didn't know if they had to have a sprinkler system inside for
I don't
fire
think so.
code?
Yeah,
No?
I'm looking at staff. We haven't seen anything, but if it's required in the code, but I don't think it does. Storage units typically don't have them.
Right,
They're outside.
okay.
Good question, but that'll be handled by the chief building inspector.
And I would assume when we submit our building plans, actually, at that point, they're gonna get reviewed for compliance, and we'll have to.
Things like access and egress are the key and occupancy requirements.
Then my last question is to, I guess, to the builders or to you, Mr. Baxter, is that I noticed that the construction is already completed on the laundromat side. Obviously, it appears to be drywall on that one wall that goes to the storage facility.
Come on up here and give me.
Or is it
your name and
concrete?
address and just-
We'll need to get you sworn in and also name and address. So, Ms. Nunn?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And just name and
It's
address.
Eric Ross. It's 3109 DeBera Way, that's Debera, in Louisville, Kentucky, 40220. Yes, sir, it was one open area, and it's actually a block wall.
It is a
all the-
block
All
wall.
the way from floor to ceiling.
That's all I need. Thank you very much.
All right, any additional questions for the applicant? Additional questions? Okay, I see none. With that, Mr. Baxter, I think we're down to your final statement.
I don't have a final statement, Mr. Chairman. I won't belabor this one, if that's okay.
All right, okay.
At Mr. King's request.
All right, so docket PZ 18014, his application has been completed. And now I'll call on Mr. Urban and Mr. Combs to outline what's being requested.
Sure. Brooke, if you put up the slide that had the requests. Brooke has suggested 3 motions today. One is, and first, the waiver of the minimum lot size. If you don't agree with that, then you don't move forward. The second is a conditional use permit, and that's the area where you look at, in your staff report, there's a potential motion for approval, and it talks about essential or desirable to the community and not in conflict with the elements, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, and you can check off some of those. To support both of those, you also have the applicant's justification statement in the packet. And then the third would be a development plan. So I'll go over conditions on the CUP and the development plan later, but the first one again is for a waiver of the minimum lot size to be less than 3 acres.
Okay. All right, Mr. Combs, anything you need to add to that?
Only that at the end of the motion, you need to condition upon the approval shall only apply to the plan reviewed at the July 24, 2018 Planning Commission public hearing.
Okay,
We're going to put that on all of them.
okay.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Finney.
Is this a recommendation to Crestwood, or is this,
No.
Okay.
This is a final decision.
okay.
All right, you have heard the outline, and we will consider the waiver on the minimum lot size first. So the chair would now entertain a motion on the waiver, minimum waiver request. Mr. King?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for approval of the minimum lot size waiver as requested. Based on testimony and evidence presented, it's clear that the regulations did not necessarily anticipate a proposal on this level. In addition, evidence cited demonstrates a creation of an undue hardship for the applicant in acquiring additional land that is not applied to others operating in this business in similar circumstances. I'll move for approval in those terms and would like to incorporate the proposed conditions of approval as noted with that motion.
Okay. Mr. Combs?
I'd like for him to go ahead and add the approval again. Should be, all he has to do is read that little section up there.
So,
Shall only apply to today's plan.
shall only apply to today's plan. I would like to incorporate that into the motion as well.
That's the only one on the waiver. We're going to get to conditional use permits and development plan, and there'll be 2 other things in those, but as far as the waiver goes.
Am I done?
Is that adequate, sir? Mr. Combs?
Okay, fine.
Okay. Have a motion on the floor on the waiver of the minimum lot size. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Mr. Falvey seconds. Okay, now any discussion on the motion to approve the waiver request on the minimum lot size on docket PZ 18014? Yes,
Yes,
sir.
again, just going back to what we discussed earlier, there is no basis, or we don't know a basis for the 3-acre minimum
Well,
requirement?
It really was, and I think Brooks said 2008, but it was in 2007 that the zoning ordinance was updated, and as best as we can tell, somewhere in that time period when it was updated, that standard was put into it, because based on what she showed you in terms of the other storage units, it was not a consideration. So the standard got changed in whatever month it was in '07. And then it applied to the one that you had mentioned in '08. So that's our first evidence of any change.
Okay, that's all.
Is that all, Mr. Halfling?
That's all.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call on Ms. Nunn, and this is a vote on docket PZ 18014, which is the request of the waiver of the minimum lot size. So this is a motion to approve. So, Ms. Nunn?
Okay, Greg King,
Yes.
Bob Klingenfuss,
Yes.
Mr. Mesker,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Bonet,
Yes.
Ms. Crosby,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Mr. Finney,
Yes.
Mr. Halfling,
Yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
and Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Right, on docket PZ 18014, the waiver request has been approved on a vote of 13-0. So with that, now we will consider, and I'll ask Mr. Urban to outline on the CUP what being requested here.
This is a little unusual for you to be dealing with conditional use permits. They typically go to the Board of Adjustments, but because this is an existing site and it also involves a development plan, You have a unique, I guess, decision in front of you. It's a little different than the last one. The last one, we incorporated the conditional use into the approval of the development plan that included requirements of binding elements. In this case, conditional uses typically have conditions placed on them. And the only one that I heard was that the applicant has agreed that it would be for indoor storage only. So one of your conditions in the conditional use decision would be that it for indoor storage only, and that it does only apply to the plan that was submitted and reviewed on July 24, 2018 by the Planning Commission public hearing. In your staff report, item number 2, you have a recommended motion, and there are reasons why you might consider approving this that are essential or desirable to the community and not in conflict with the elements, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. So 2 conditions of approval on this conditional use permit, indoor storage only, and only the plan submitted today.
Okay. Mr. Combs, anything else that you need to add?
Nothing to add.
All right. With that, you've heard what's being requested on these conditional use permits. Do we, Chair, will now entertain a motion on those? Yes, sir, Mr. Horton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move that docket PC 18014 is approved for the following reasons. First of all, it does not conflict with the comprehensive plan. It is compatible with surrounding properties. The waiver request also is endorsed by the community and by the local government of Crestwood. It also complies with goal LU3 having to do with economic development, and LU3-2 has to do with the expanding and redeveloping of existing properties, and goal BI1, which would be promoting business and industrial development. It has demonstrated a need in that area, and also to add all the conditions of approval that have been discussed up to this point.
Okay. Just for clarification, this is a conditional use permit request. And I didn't hear you say that in your motion, so just want to make it clear that is a conditional use permit
Okay,
request.
just include that in the motion, if you will.
And all, it's redundant, but the approval shall only apply to the plan reviewed at the July 24, 2018 Planning Commission public hearing.
And it be for indoor storage only.
And
Those 2
request that
conditions.
also be a part of the motion.
Okay. All right. Everybody understand what the motion is? Okay. It's a motion to approve the conditional use permits with the attached language on the conditions. Is there a second? Do we have a second? Mr. Halfling seconds. Okay. Do we have any discussion? Discussion on this motion to approve. Yes, sir. Mr. Douglas.
Mr. Urban, as far as the conditional approval to pave and stripe the parking lot, is that going to come under developmental plan?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion before we vote? All right. Seeing none, I'll call on Ms. Nunn to take the vote on the conditional use permit request on docket PZ 18014. This is a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Mesker?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Bonet?
Yes.
Ms. Crosby?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Falvey?
Yes.
Mr. Finney?
Yes.
Mr. Halfling?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Klingenfuss?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And on the motion on docket PZ 18014, conditional use permit request, the motion passes on a vote of 13-0. The last thing that we will consider on this docket is the development plan, and Mr. Urban, would you outline that for us, please?
Sure. There are sample motions in your packet for either approval or denial of the development plan. This development plan is a little different in that the bulk of it is on the interior of the building for a portion that's been presented to you by the applicant. The only thing that I heard that would be a condition of approval on the development plan is that the applicant's attorney has offered that they will pave and restripe the parking lot.
Okay. All right, Mr. Combs, anything else we need to add?
That's appropriate.
Okay. All right, you've heard being outlined on the development plan. Do we have a motion? Chair would entertain a motion. Mr. King?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of the development plan as submitted. Based on testimony and evidence presented, I find it in compliance with objectives of the comprehensive plan, and including those referenced in applicant's submittal, including LU 3-2 BI2. The approval contingent upon adherence to the binding elements and conditions of approval as noted. And of course, this is limited to the presentation made at today's hearing.
Okay. Is that adequate, sir, Mr. Combs?
Is that it?
Okay.
Did he say about paving and striping in that?
Yeah, did you add the paving and striping?
That would be included by reference to the conditions. Mhm.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Yes, sir. Okay, got a second? All right, any discussion? Any discussion? This is a motion on the development plan on docket PZ 18014. All right, seeing no hands go up, Ms. Nunn, if you would, we'll take a vote on the development plan approval on docket PZ 18014, and this is a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Douglas? Yes. Mr. Falvey?
Yes.
Mr. Finney?
Yes.
Mr. Halfling?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Horton? Yes. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Klingenfuss?
Yes.
Mr. Mesker?
Yes.
Mr. Neal? Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Bonet?
Yes.
Ms. Crosby?
Yes.
All right, the development plan request has been approved on docket PZ 18014 on a vote of 13-0. And Commissioners, let me ask, do we need to take a short recess, reset for the next docket, or continue on? I'm sorry? Well, do you want to take a 10-minute break before we start into the next docket?
Take a 5-minute one.
Okay, let's go ahead and we'll take a 5-minute break. All right.